Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
There are a lot of new faces. Committees are different.
A forecast of this year's session of the legislature.
Put it plainly, this is a big deal for coastal Louisiana.
A plan to bring a vital, huge swamp back to life.
I just gotten so much love from Louisiana, and it's been humbling.
Meet Mickey Smith Jr., born in the Bayou and now a Grammy Award-winning educator. Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in just a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, to look at some other news that's making headlines across Louisiana.
Before midnight Tuesday, an explosion at the Exxon refinery rocked the area of Baton Rouge around it, and the resulting fire turned the night sky orange. Its heat could be felt across the Mississippi River. By 7 a.m. Wednesday, Exxon said its volunteer fire crews put out the blaze. It shook neighbors, but Exxon says no injuries or impact to the environment. Federal prosecutors say a businessman who was in charge of monitoring asbestos for Terrebonne Parish schools gave phony test results for years. The indictment accuses Mark Victoriano of defrauding the parish school board of more than $212,000. He allegedly submitted 56 false invoices from 2015 to 2017. He has a court date later this month. With accusations of inappropriate sexual behavior swirling around him, a suspended New Orleans judge has resigned. Criminal District Court Judge Byron Williams was initially taken off the bench with pay 2 years ago, amid reports he groped and harassed a clerk. An outbreak of norovirus at L'Auberge Casino in Lake Charles left at least 200 people sick and prompted state health officials to investigate. The health department confirmed the illnesses were related to the virus, which is a highly contagious stomachache that causes vomiting and diarrhea. Good news for state lawmakers, great news actually. The new legislative leaders will inherit $86 million in off-the-books surpluses, now revealed by the state auditor's office. This is money that has been quietly amassing for years and is tucked away in annual financial reports for the House, Senate, and other legislative agencies. Now, decisions of where to spend it. With an estimated $60 million in repairs needed on the exterior of the state capitol, they may not have to look far. The Army Corps of Engineers plans to spend more than $85 million to deepen the main channel of the Mississippi River in the state. Washington will kick in almost $46 million more, with the state covering the rest of the $240 million project. Increasing the depth from about 45 to 50 feet would allow several ports to accept large cargo ships built to accommodate the expansion of the Panama Canal. A new study shows Louisiana ranks 25th as the heaviest drinking state in the U.S. Booze is a big part of American culture, and that can also be said for Louisiana, especially the French Quarter of New Orleans and Bourbon Street. But we are nowhere near the drunkest states or areas in America. That's the title of a new study, which ranks the District of Columbia, Vermont, and South Dakota as the top 3.
Well, the governor, they were excited about this, and coastal protection leaders from the CPRA Wednesday announcing what they call a major win for Louisiana.
Money approved to revitalize Moreau Swamp, the state's second largest coastal swamp forest.
Saltwater intrusion has been causing the slow death of the swamp for decades, but the project will inject a flow of fresh water from the Mississippi River and bring the swamp back to life.
The river reintroduction into Moreau Swamp is a project that's literally been decades in the making. But the prospects for funding that project have been pretty slim until this morning with the actions of the Restore Council. So we're happy that you're here with us today to celebrate that action. The Restore Council voted to approve $130 million to advance this important project for coastal Louisiana. And to put it plainly, this is a big deal for coastal Louisiana. This is one of the biggest projects that will have the most ecological benefit in the history of Louisiana's coastal program. Of course, that will be done by reconnecting the river, Mississippi River, with the Moreau Swamp, its original life-giving source, and of course the banks of which we're standing on here today.
That was Brent Haas there of the CPRA. He says the rebirth of the swamp means that natural buffer to hurricane winds and storm surge will regrow and protect us. If you recall, it was during Cat 1 Hurricane Isaac back in 2012 that areas that never flooded before from storm surge did, and that emphasized the fact that protections offered by that swamp were no longer healthy and no longer existed.
Right after that announcement, the governor confirmed another story that had been leaked, the naming of a new health secretary to replace Dr. Rebecca Gee, who resigned last month.
Dr. Courtney Phillips will be returning to Louisiana from Texas, and she will become the Secretary of the Department of Health. I'm excited about that. She's a Louisiana native from Plaquemines Parish. She's got family from Plaquemines over through Ascension Parish here in the Baton Rouge area. She spent many years at LDH before she went to Nebraska, where she was the secretary of their equivalent to our Department of Health anyway. And then most recently, she's been in the state of Texas, where she's been the secretary of their Department of Health as well. But I have tremendous confidence in Courtney. She's somebody that I've known for a long time, and I feel really good about her leadership in that position and what she's going to be able to do for the state of Louisiana, really to continue the momentum that we have.
Courtney Phillips will inherit a growing multi-billion-dollar budget and take over a department in the middle of a dispute over more than $21 billion in Medicaid contracts. The governor says her salary is $250,000, and it's less than she was actually making in Texas, but Phillips wanted to come home.
At this year's annual meeting of LSWI, the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, the state's newly elected legislative leaders shared the stage for an hour of questions and answers, and I caught up with them afterwards.
Their names loomed large as the two legislative heavyweights got a taste of what's to come, being in the spotlight with this year's session at the state capitol almost upon us. They're both Republicans and both businessmen, and both told me it's essential they work with colleagues from both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, to make sure the people of Louisiana benefit. And they say that starts with their relationship with the governor.
We're going to be open door and wanting to work both with the governor and with the Senate. I think moving forward, I know my constituents want that as well, and I think the state wants it. So, yeah.
And you?
Well, I think it makes good sense. You know, you have a better product if everybody agrees on it. But at the same time, the legislature's job is to establish the public policy for the state of Louisiana. If we have overwhelming support for a particular issue and we put that on the governor's desk, I think it makes good sense for him to sign it if we had overwhelming support. Now, I'm not going to tell the governor how to do his job, and certainly I know he doesn't want to tell us how to do our job, but we should have a meeting of the minds to find a compromise where we all can say this is going to move the state forward and we all can live with it.
We often hear the phrase, great state of Louisiana, but truth is, if we were so great, we wouldn't experience the ongoing migration of so many of our brightest, lured away by better opportunities. Our population wouldn't be stagnant. It is largely unchanged the last 4 decades. They tell me steps must be taken to ensure real progress.
People go where they're invited and they stay where they're appreciated. And so I think legislation and public policy sometimes is an open invitation to come to our state. And then when you're here, sometimes other legislation is an invitation to stay here and be appreciated here. And I think that's what government's about. We should want people to stay here for their business, for their family, you know, and for their recreation.
And I agree with him. In my business, I see a lot of people come in from all over the world. They travel and they here. And the one thing that they enjoy is the Louisiana hospitality. We have to do the same thing for business. We have to open up the hospitality and allow people to want to be here.
Well, the annual business that is the Louisiana legislature is several weeks away. We check in with 2 of the state's top political reporters for their take on it. Welcome to Melinda DeLotte, from the Associated Press, Greg Hilburn, USA Today Network. Guys, we are just less than a month before the start of the session. And so as it begins, is there one topic that is standing out as we approach it?
Yes, tort reform is the subject du jour, which before everybody starts to fall asleep just from the term.
Right. However, it has some big ramifications too.
Absolutely.
So they say.
It's the primary issue for Republicans. It's an issue that a lot of Republican candidates ran on. It's about making changes to the civil litigation system in the way that lawsuits are handled for things like personal injury claims, car accident claims, those kind of things.
Car insurance rates.
Yeah. And what the Republicans who ran on it will say is if you make these changes to deal with what they consider lawsuit abuse, that it could in some way perhaps lower your car insurance rates. And that's the peg that they've used on that. Democrats and folks on the opposing side of the issue would say that that's not going to do anything to lower your car insurance rates, that it's just a giveaway to the insurance industry and to big business. And they would argue that the things you should do in terms of lowering car insurance rates are like not letting the insurance industry use credit scores or gender or educational background to determine how they set rates, and to do things like addressing distracted driving and road conditions and any number of other things. But it is clearly going to be the topic that there's a big Republican push behind it. You already have seen, a dozen or so bills filed on the subject matter. So it'll be something to watch.
How does this session, the prepping for it that you guys do, compare to previous years?
I think it seems to me there's starting out with less of a fractiousness between the governor, in this case the Democrat who's John Bel Edwards, who's won but can't run again, and this super Republican legislature. There's a super majority in the Senate, 2 votes shy of a super majority in the House. So there's conflict, but I don't sense the same level of animosity between the governor and the legislature. Frankly, probably because there's not much they can do. He can't run again,
right?
So he'll be more relaxed. The Republicans are looking. They can control the legislation in both chambers, and so we'll see what happens.
Does it have anything to do with the fact there's so many new people in there?
Yeah, I was going to
also?
say, quite frankly, the way that prepping for this session has gone involves looking at photos of people and trying to figure out who's who. We have so many new members. There's 45 new members in the House, although 2 of them came from the Senate, so we'll at least recognize those folks. And then in the Senate, there's 20 new members, which is a majority of the chamber. Now, a lot of those members came from the House, but there are a lot of new faces. Committees are different, chairmen are different. Everything is, it's a new term. So it's just kind of figuring out who the players are going to be. And what kind of legislation they're going to file. We don't have a lot of pre-filed bills yet. I think we're right around 100 so far, and obviously hundreds more will probably be filed before session actually starts. So we're not really sure what's going to come up, what's going to bubble up to the top in terms of issues that people are going to get really excited and interested in.
We have had the budget presented. Again, without an endorsement or agreement in the REC. They never reached any sort of backing there. And there's a lawsuit from the governor against the state treasurer. So those are 2 things that are happening as we move into the session.
And they're related because the governor wants to include and contends that the money that he's suing the treasurer to be put in the general fund is constitutionally belongs in there. It's from the unclaimed property fund.
Yes.
The treasurer, these are funds that deposits that were never returned, royalty checks that have been somehow never found their owner. So it belongs to the people. And the treasurer insists and has since last year that none of that money belongs in the general fund, that it should be reserved for the people that come to claim.
Now, we should point out that the legislature and governors for decades have appropriated a certain amount from the unclaimed property fund each year and spent it on general operating expenses across the budget. And what they argue is, well, as you are paying back people who are owed their money, new money is constantly flowing into that fund. So by spending a small portion of it, it's never jeopardizing people's ability to get that money. And what Treasurer Schroeder argues is that he doesn't see, and his lawyers don't see, any legal basis for how that money has ever been spent in the general fund. And that sort of messes up the revenue forecast because among the many disagreements they seem to have about how to determine what income projections to use for the budget, one of them is, should we include the unclaimed property money, which is about $25 million or so that they've used annually, or should we not include that money? So that's just one on the list of disagreements over the revenue forecast.
So they might not think it should be a problem, but if it goes to some kind of court decision, what happens?
Well, I mean, if the treasurer isn't transferring the money, you can't spend the money. So that's the bottom line of where they are right now, which is he has refused because he has control over it.
But would he be forced to?
That's what the governor wants. The governor wants a judge to force him to transfer the money.
He never transferred it last year.
Right. It's been last year he didn't transfer this, and last year the state has surplus, so it didn't matter. It just basically lowered the amount of the surplus. This year he's not transferring it, and he sent them a letter saying, I'm not transferring it any year I am treasurer.
Okay. There's one thing we haven't mentioned yet, and it was absent from the budget. Teacher pay raises. That wasn't included in there. What's the reason for that, and how surprising would that be?
Well, I mean, I was surprised by it because this is something that the governor has been consistent on throughout his first term, and he finally was able to secure, with the approval of the legislature, raises for teachers for the first time in maybe a decade last year. He called that a down payment on the future and indicated pledge that he would seek more raises.
Continued to reach the Southern average.
He campaigned on a multi-year plan to get teachers to the Southern regional average, and now 1 year has happened, but where are the rest of the years?
So is there another way that he would put that in there somehow that we haven't seen yet?
So the budget has, this gets really arcane really fast, but the budget has an increase for the public school financing formula, all the money that flows to local public school districts. And the governor included a proposed increase there. And what the administration is saying is we would give extra money to local school districts and they could choose to spend it on teacher pay raises if they want to. But that leaves inconsistency across all the districts, and it leaves it to local school district leaders to decide. And teachers seem to be arguing, and teacher organizations at least seem to be arguing that isn't entirely consistent with what he campaigned on.
Well, it sounds like there will be things to cover and talk about nonetheless. Melinda, Greg, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, so we checked with the governor about those pay raises, and he's defending himself right now, saying that raises in the multi-year process to get to the Southern average are still on track. A lot of those teachers furious right now, not seeing the specifics in the proposed budget. But again, as Melinda just mentioned, he is saying that he hopes the local school districts, with money being funneled through K through 12, will give those raises onto the teachers. We'll take a look and see.
It looks like the third time was really the charm for Mickey Smith Jr., who was named the 2020 Grammy Education Award winner. Smith, who's been nominated 5 times, suffered a disappointing loss in the 2019 finals, but today he's on cloud 9. His message, just keep going.
You say 1 up, 2 up, 3 up. 1, 2, 3, how?
You could say Maplewood Middle School band director Mickey Smith Jr. helps students bring their music to life, literally.
Do it again. 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, how?
For 15 years, the high-energy music educator has counted, played, and replayed every note with every student.
Huber Mickey Smith Jr. is a little boy from a little town that some might even say is a forgotten community.
But Mickey Smith Jr., named the 2020 Music Education Grammy Award winner, hasn't forgotten about Mossville, that town that barely exists now. It is forever a part of his life story. This is where Grammy Award winner Mickey Smith Jr. was born, Mossville, Louisiana. He says when he was growing up playing the tenor saxophone, he was so bad that his mom told him to go outside and keep going and keep going. He says he ended up in the woods playing until he got better.
Everybody say counting. Counting. Super important, right? So
counting every student's achievement or special moment.
Now, if anybody could take a rest today, it would be Mr. Valentine. Because if he had a song today, his song would sound like this. Happy birthday to you. He thinks I didn't know. Happy birthday to you. Happy Happy birthday, dear Carson. Mr. Valentine, happy birthday to you.
Notable pauses, so to speak, that students likely won't forget.
I believe teaching teaches us all. There's some lessons that are taught, some that are caught. And one thing I tell my students all the time is that there's no such thing as overnight success, just over life success. And nothing's put on a platform that hasn't been perfected in a practice room. And I think that this Grammy situation has been just a further testament to the power of perseverance.
His power was put to the test very early as a young teacher in Sulphur, Louisiana, population just over 20,000.
When I first got to this school, it was 2005. It was trial by fire, trial by storm. Hurricanes Katrina and Rita both hit our states. Then we ourselves got devastated. Was out of school for like a month and a half. The entire community was decimated. So I learned a lot in that year, but the biggest thing I learned is at the end of the day, we all just want to be loved, valued, and wanted. We only had about maybe 28 kids in the program. But what we did at that time was we presented band as something meaningful, something powerful, something that was relevant to them. And over the years, with that mindset and being active in the community, we've grown the band now to about half of the school population.
Half of the school is in the band.
Which makes it very interesting at the pep rally. By the time you get the band and football, there's nobody in the bleachers.
He says it's important that everyone knows that what happens here is so much more than music.
It's created a culture, not just in the band, but in the school and even in the community. And I think that it's important that everyone understands that music is an essential element. It's not just an extracurricular, it's part of the human experience. You take it away from it, it changes the whole scope of this thing we call life, and it changes what we see as possible. We dream, we envision, we imagine through the arts. And I think that that's the most important element that we can give kids in school.
The band, now bigger and better, is music to their music-loving teachers' ears. Smith's dedication goes well beyond the typical school day. He works to make sure every child that wants to be great has an opportunity, no matter the circumstances.
Somebody asked me a while back, man, we hear that you open up the band hall in the mornings before school technically starts and let kids come in and practice. Why? You know, and I get it. The sounds aren't great. Why would you want that to be your first sounds in the course of a day? I discovered that some kids don't have a home situation conducive to them improving. Maybe they're living in the apartment. Maybe they're staying with somebody. I've had kids that were literally homeless, like they living out of the car or on the side of the street somewhere. So for a brief few moments, it gives them a place they can call home.
Those students tell us Smith is so much more than just their teacher.
He's always fun with it, and he always makes us laugh, and it's just how he makes our classes fun and everything else. So he's not always strict about it.
It inspired me because I seen Mr. Smith, I'm like, wow, he's amazing. And then I was like, I wanna be like him one day.
And Trey says he knows that Mr. Smith will do everything he can to help him succeed because
he loves us as his kids.
So you feel more like his kid than his student? And 7th grader Julian Shelton agrees.
Whenever he talks to us, it's not like I want to get in here and get out. It's like he really cares. He makes us feel like we're, I don't want to sound like needy or anything, but he makes us feel like we're wanted, like we matter to him.
So anytime we play, we scan it first, then we do the serious reading. Here we go, serious reading right here, super readers. Ready? 1, you start it, say 1 up, 2 up, 3 up. 1 up, 2 up.
Smith plans to continue using what is now a national platform to reach and teach others.
The consensus I find with folks is people think those that can't teach, but I believe those that can teach. I believe we're all teachers in some element. Music just happens to be my vehicle. I said it before, everybody has a sound. My sound is not my saxophone that I play necessarily. It's my ability to engage, to educate, and to elevate all my learners to excellence. And a learner may be in the classroom. That learner may be someone in the community that I connect with. It may be teachers that I work with.
From here, Smith says the sky's the limit. He says he wants to give back to as many people as he can because so many people believed and poured their love into him.
I think one thing about this thing called life, it's a journey. And if you think about going down the highway, sometimes we look for exits, but I'm looking for a next it. That's what I want to do. And for me, I will always teach. I believe it's just in my DNA. But in this season, I want to do more than just what I do in the four walls. I'm working right now on a Keep On Going teacher tour, where we go to schools, we share some of these best practices, not wagging the finger and saying you're doing this wrong. I'm not here to teach or preach, I'm just to remind you of your sound.
He says with the help of a community of others, he found his sound, despite the fact that many might have been discouraged. And he plans to keep going, just like the book he wrote detailing his not-so-sweet sounding beginnings.
My story was the sound wasn't very good. And sometimes kids are like, man, you didn't get mad at your mom when she told you to keep on going? And I tell them, no, wait. Number one, it wasn't that kind of game back in the day. You didn't get mad at mama, number one. You just did what mama said. But most importantly, I asked them, what did she really say? She didn't say stop. She said keep on going. And I believe our ability to improve, our ability to grow is how we perceive a situation.
And he has definitely followed his own advice. Listen to Mickey Smith Jr. now. Mickey Smith Jr. says, believe it or not, he almost quit teaching a few years ago, but it was a heartfelt letter from one of his students that changed his mind. This year, his commitment and hard work acknowledged with a Grammy. A follow-up to tell you about concerning an investigation into an alarm company that a Prairieville man says misrepresented themselves. Cornell Bluen says a door-to-door salesman stopped by his home in November and told him that the Safe Home security company had bought out ADT and his alarm system needed to be upgraded.
Yeah, not true. He says he agreed to install a new alarm system with a 3-year contract, only to learn that Safe Home is not affiliated with ADT. We spoke with Mr. Bluen last week, and he got some good news. He tells us a Safe Home security technician came into his home, removed their system, and that contract is voided now.
Now, he says that ADT system has been reinstalled, and he feels vindicated for speaking up in hopes of helping others. We contacted the Safe Home security company several times for this report, but they did not respond.
But all that happened after your report on him.
That's
so
right.
Good work there, yeah.
Good for Mr. Bluen.
Absolutely. That is our show, everyone, for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our brand new app.
Download it for free from your app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.